Okay, good afternoon. We're just going to wait for a few seconds here while we get some folks joining and trickling in. While you're joining, do us a favor, drop in the comments, let us know where are you coming from. And by the way, if you're representing a startup or a small business, show yourself some love. We want to celebrate you. Let us know who you are. Give a shout out to yourself. And also feel free to go ahead and put some questions in the chat and in the comment section. We will do our best to answer them for you while we are on our session today. All right, I see New Jersey. Jersey's in the house. Callie, what's good? Callie's so great. It's awesome. Okay, I think we've got a good group. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's roll. Welcome to Roll Talk, the virtual series where we give you behind the scenes access to industry experts, trends, everything that's happening, insights, all the good stuff that you need to know. We are here to support you, and we are here to give you access to the people that you need access to. My name is Mac. I am a serial entrepreneur, and I am your moderator for today, and I am very privileged and lucky to be part of the Roll by ADP team. We are going to talk about something that is so important to our audience today, and that's access to funding and the fact that we're existing in a super tight labor market, right? So before we get into all of that good stuff, let's meet our speakers for today. I am honored and privileged to introduce you to entrepreneurial powerhouses that they are, Roberto, Masiero, and Kenzo. Roberto is the founder of Roll by ADP. He is also the founder and head of all of ADP Innovation Labs. And Ken is the founder and CEO of Tillful. So gentlemen, before we get into all the shop talk, we need to know, what was your journey? Tell us a little bit about how you became an entrepreneur. Tell us a little bit about your startups. Roberto, why don't you go first?
All right. Thank you. Thank you again for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. A little bit about me. Again, you will see by the accent, I came from Brazil, so that's where my journey as an entrepreneur started. So very early in my career, while I was still in college, decided to start my own company in the software space. I think there was back in the days, I don't want to say how many years ago, there was a lot of opportunity in many different fields. So started actually 3 different companies. I mean, the first 2 didn't work. And that's why one of the important things is persist, keep pushing. The third company that I started really, worked. We created a product that was fairly successful. Brazil is a very big country and we needed money. And unfortunately, we didn't have someone like Tillful in there back in those days. So the only way to get capital was to, kind of either find a good partner or get a loan, like a simple loan on a bank. So we started doing pitches to banks and trying to find a partner. And in one of the trade shows that we participated, ADP was a couple of booths down on that floor, and we started a conversation, and it ended up that ADP acquired my startup, my company, and they used the software from my company to run basically ADP Brazil, and then a couple of years later, they invited me to come to US, and that the rest is history. I mean, I've been with ADP for, almost 20 years now, and 3 years in Brazil, the rest here. Ran very big groups within ADP. And then about 10 years ago, I pitched to the CEO and the CIO to create this innovation lab, this sort of department to incubate new ideas, come up with new products to make the life of our clients better. And many products that we push out of the lab is like our ADP Mobile and our ADP Marketplace. And now this wonderful product that we might talk a little bit about, which is called Roll by ADP, which is very novel, uses a conversational UI for the small business to be able to set up and run payroll in 15 minutes and take all that complexity out of their hands so that it can really focus on what is important, their business, their clients, the success of their. So that's a little bit about me.
Amazing, Roberto. Thank you so much. Ken, I know you have an awesome story as well, and we need to hear it.
Well, I don't know if I can top Roberto's one, but I don't have the accent, but I'm working on it. My journey started when I was young. I always grew up in this small business household. My dad was always a small business entrepreneur since from Hong Kong, when he was in Hong Kong, and then when we immigrated to Canada. So I actually get to see all that growth, when I was young, and all the trial and tribulation that he had. Immigrating to a country where he didn't really speak the language. We were living in a French-speaking city, and so really, and he didn't even have a car at the time. And so kind of learning all that when I was young and seeing how hard it was to build any business, whether it's a venture back or whatnot. I think the one thing that really stuck with me was collecting money, chasing customer, getting them to pay. It was like a lot of shouting matches, very difficult. And fast forward to now, or to when I was older, I got my degree, came down to Silicon Valley, started off as an engineer, and so I was in the semiconductor space. I wasn't a founder, but I did have experience with a couple of startups. One was not successful. We went under during the .com days, and then one was acquired. So had a taste as an early employee all the way to getting a nice exit. I did make a career change into finance. So I spent a number of years, investment banking and doing M&A, working for large companies, sitting on the other side of the table, acquiring companies, looking for startups to invest in. I knew that wasn't my calling. I was enjoying it, learning a lot, but I knew that wasn't my calling. So I left to start Flowcast, which is essentially the parent company of Tillful. And the idea of Flowcast was really looking at the intersection between AI and financial data, because I was working underneath the CFO office, and we had like all this data in the ERP system, and all we were doing just was quarterly reporting. But there was so much customer insight, vendor insight, supplier insight that we could essentially extract from that data. And so that was really the initial genesis of the company. I was a bit lucky. I had a co-founder who was actually a data scientist, knew a lot about data and building models. She came from American Express, JP Morgan. So it was a good, for me, it was actually a good way to start, having somebody with that expertise. And I came in more on the business side. And then, we were successful in lending some large companies, including Nike and Procter & Gamble. And then subsequently, a lot of the large banks found out about us. And so we decided to really focus on financial services as our pain point, and going after use cases and credit risks, helping. And that's how we started to help small business in changing and modernize the way we look at credit risks for small businesses, doing small business lending, working capital loans, and things of that nature. One thing we learned was a lot of data. What hinges and built, what's pivotal was the data, and we didn't own any of that data because our clients, the banks, own that data, and we couldn't take that data out or do anything with it beyond working for the banks. So we decided to launch Tillful, which is a direct to small business platform, helping to transform how business credit is done. You can think of it as like the Credit Karma for small business. It's really to help the underserved small business getting access to this business credit. And we discovered that was the way to really be able to, for us to build this database of data. And our focus, our niche was really around open banking. So taking data from bank data to really be able to understand and find intuitive ways to help them extend and help lenders extend capital to these small businesses. And that's sort of how we started. And then now here we are with ADP and looking to grow from here.
Yeah, I love it. I love both of your journeys and kind of the intersections of it. And I love that you're both waking up every day trying to solve problems for small business owners, founders, and entrepreneurs. Like, I love that that's at the heart and the unifying factor. And so it's so dope, and that's so awesome. So thank you for sharing your journeys. I feel lucky that we all got to hear them. So let's get into it, right? I mean, let's dive a little deeper into some of the challenges that we're seeing in the small business space, right? Access to capital. Let's start with that one, Ken. Just as you're kind of talking about finance, let's roll right into that. It's such a huge problem, right? Whether you're trying to launch a business or grow your business. So what are a few resources that you could recommend for someone and sort of like right now, and they're looking to kind of grow their team as it relates to access to funding? How would you kind of have them approach it, and what resources could you recommend?
Yeah. Certainly, I don't want to plug ourselves, but we're certainly the one of the few that can help with small business getting access to funding. But it is a journey. So, whether you're just starting out, getting your LLC, to getting capital to say, run your Amazon business or run your, retail business, to much later stage where you're looking to expand different offices, different locations. So it depends on kind of where you are in that journey. And we're trying to help along that life cycle of your business. And a lot of times, a lot of businesses do struggle with getting capital, startup capital upfront. And obviously banks wouldn't want to lend to a new business without any track record. So how do you overcome that? And a lot of products out there today do tap into your personal credit. So having things like personal guarantee, having things that are collateral from your personal asset to finance against the capital you need to grow that business. Though there are resources out there that doesn't tie into the personal credit side, and that's what we do. Tillful is trying to solve the problem of separating your business credit from your personal credit, so that if something goes wrong with your business, it doesn't affect your personal credit. And that lasts almost 7 years if something happens to your personal credit side. It takes a long time to recover from that. So we want to be able to help them build that journey on day one rather than day zero. And we've seen the market has shifted from the start of the pandemic, where no one was lending at all for a good 6 months, and then the government came in with stimulus checks, so PPP. Now we're seeing huge demand for capital, and it's not for debt consolidation, which is a lot of lenders don't want to lend for debt consolidation. They are lending towards like building and growing the company, and that's what we'd like to see, and that's what we're helping on. So some of the very interesting use cases out there that are looking to help small business in growing, and cutting costs, whether it's expansion or buying new equipment to reduce overall costs. I think that there are quite a few examples out there that we're helping at the moment.
I think that's so helpful, because if you are a small business owner for the first time, or an entrepreneur for the first time, or even if you're not, given the current economic sort of situation in the market, like, you need to kind of hear what those options are. So that's really helpful. I would love for you to give us some just advice really quickly, how to grow a business in a cooling economy, right? How to kind of face that. What is your sort of words of advice and your advice nugget that you can give to our audience today?
Yeah, I would say there are two things. One is, I wouldn't look to funding, even though we help with that. I wouldn't look to funding on day one. There are other vehicles to help mitigate some of the headwinds that we're seeing in the market, such as things like renegotiating your vendor contracts. Get some be able to extend your net terms with your vendors. Or similarly, on the other side, your customer, can you get them prepay you upfront? Because cash flow is king. So how do you prolong your cash flow, in times of uncertainty? I think that's number one. Number two is, looking down below along the P&L and seeing what are opportunities where you can cut costs. I know, you're facing labor shortages. It is, and as interest rate rises and inflation, it is more difficult. But there are ways where there's ways where you can outsource it outside the country if it's if that's allowable, or things that you can find replacements, different suppliers, different vendors that may offer a lower price. I think there are other opportunities before really tapping into the capital side. And then lastly, it's education. A lot of times we find the expectation and reality is very different. Like people expecting I'm gonna, my business is qualified for $500,000 loan, but in the reality is 10x lower that lenders are willing. So there's that reset of education is required that we find.
I think it's really sage advice. Cash flow is king is absolutely true, but you're right. Before they sort of jump and go for that, they really should evaluate what other options, like what other tools they have in their toolkit, right? Before kind of just placing all the eggs in that basket. Awesome. Okay, want to pivot to Roberto. As we're kind of thinking, you just mentioned labor shortages, Ken, so I love that you did that. That super helped me out. We're post-pandemic, Roberto. We're post-Great Resignation. We're in the situation we're in today. I am really curious, how should small to medium-sized businesses, founders, entrepreneurs, what do they need to be doing to engage and retain their employee base right now, right? It's somewhat of a challenge.
It is. And it's almost like it doesn't matter if you're in pandemic, if you are in a verge of a recession or in a very hot market. What we call this war for talent. I don't remember the last time I heard that. No, now it's super easy. I mean, I go on, I put a sign on my door and there's people flooding in. I think it's very important that you put a package together that makes sense, both from a compensation, obviously observing your operating costs and all that, but it's attractive, it's competitive. And I think that's one of the things that we try to help as well, is to give you some benchmarks on what the industry in general is paying. I think also is the flexibility more and more after the pandemic. I mean, unless your business is totally presential, you need to be on the store or whatever, the flexibility of where to work from. And one of the things that, independent of sort of the location of the employees, is flexibility on the pay. One of the trends we're seeing even on Row is more and more people not paying on a frequency. We used to have like, I pay weekly, I pay bi-weekly, I pay monthly. Now we see more and more people paying on demand. Whenever the gig is done, so if I finish painting that, house or mowing the lawn or, whatever it is, driving that truck from point A to point B, you get paid. So you might get paid every day, you might get paid every other day, whenever. And I think that is an interesting thing, because it also helps in some cases with the cash flow, which is so important, as Ken said. I mean, it is one of the most stressful things for a small business, is how to control the cash flow. And I think this idea of, okay, I do the job, I pay my employees, I now have the money to, whatever, get more inventory, whatever it is. I think those are the things that if you have a good, mechanic and a beautiful package to offer your employees, you will be much more attractive for those employees. And also the level of personalization and access you give to the employees. We think it's very important for them to be able to see those, the hours they're working and how much they made, and in an easy way. And that's why we think mobile is king, giving employee access to all that data on their mobile devices in an easy way also is a retention factor. And that's why we think, having a system, it doesn't need to be Row anything. We like Row, but having a system that give access to the employees, empower your workforce to be autonomous, to be able to do whatever they do on their own, I think it's something that sells and retains for the small business.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there. New wave technology is going to create change, right? And it's changing and based on what the actual end user's need is, right? Which we love to see with the evolution of technology. I know that spot bonuses, hiring bonuses are a big thing. Are you seeing that sort of from your data as well, Roberto?
In some industries, it depends on the industry. If there is if there is more, sort of demand than offer, definitely we see some of that happening. And I think it varies both by industry, a little bit by geography as well. But it's definitely something that you need to be willing to do if you have the capability to get new talent in. I think on the hospitality industry, there is a lot of demand for, for people, and there's not a lot of offer out there. So in some industries, very, very much so. In others, not that much. Yep.
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you so much for that background. Before we jump to questions, just really quickly, we've been talking a lot about Roll. We've been talking a lot about Tillful. People might not know how to access them. So I'm just going to let you guys know, if you head to the App Store, they'll be there. Also, you can visit tillful.com or Roll by ADP. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about questions from the audience. We see a few coming through. Roberto, let's start with you.
Yep.
A question from our audience is, how do you stay on top of industry trends? Because I cannot imagine what both of your schedules look like. How do you have time to learn? How do you have time to sort of stay ahead and be in the know?
I think a lot is just, having good sources of knowledge and news. I think, having conversations like this, and exchanging notes with other founders, with other, industry leaders. Also, I mean, I hear to a lot of, podcasts, from good people out there that you can learn from, read a lot. But I think the main thing is really talk to our clients. It's listen to what their needs, what their pains are, and then how technology can sort of try to resolve some of those needs. I think one example, again, bringing Roll. I mean, again, this is about Roll and Tillful here, so I'm using those as examples. But on Roll, using sort of the AI ML behind the scenes to create a system that is conversational. So there are no forms, there are no menus, there are no, it's literally like you chat with the system. So, it's facilitating this interface. And this comes from talking to clients and understanding that, I cannot go through days of training. I cannot even be sitting on a desktop to do these tasks. I'm on the go. I'm on my, delivery truck. I'm on the field on my construction side or my what. So again, mobile, some UI that it's conducive to mobile, which we think chat is great, and that's what we did. We made it the system that you can run payroll just chatting with the system, and it's still very compliant, make sure that everything is what it's supposed to be, but in an easy way. So I think to keep up with technology, all of the above, but listening to your customer and understanding what is sort of like the shortest path to their needs. Don't try to engage, try to resolve the problem, the pain that they have. And if that means, simplifying the system so that they don't come to you that often because they don't need to, that's the way to go. I mean, just really shortest path to their happiness.
No, I love that. Listening to your customers. It's the core for every successful entrepreneur. Yep. And I'm just going to say, Ken, this is I know this is silly because I just said this, but we want to know, one of the questions is, what would you say are the 3 most important habits of a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So I'll start with number 1 is being comfortable with failure and dealing with rejections. So whether that's getting rejected from your customers to investors to candidate, I think that is number 1. If you're if you don't like a rejection, don't like dealing with any of that, I think it's going to be difficult, challenging road ahead. So having that sort of thick skin is going to be number 1, very important, because those are the characters, the attributes of people that don't give up. They would just kind of continue to plow through, whether it's good time or bad time. You're going to hear those rejections. Number 2, I would say, is having the ability to attract talents. So you can't do this alone. No matter what you think, most entrepreneurs think they can just run everything themselves. You got to surround yourself with the best people, the best talents you can find. And, I think a lot, and I made the same mistake when, during my being a CEO, I wanted to find customers. I wanted to build products, but having the right people and spending more than 50% of your time interviewing, attracting, finding good talents is one of the most important things that any company should be doing at all times. And I think the last advice or habit is really become the master of your domain. And what I mean by that is you don't want to be good at everything or mediocre at everything, but really be able to become that master of that offering that you're doing. So I always believe that every business is essentially an information arbitrage. And what I mean by that is, if you think about it, like why is it that the top 1%, controls 90% of wealth around the world? And when I was in investment banking, I realized that a lot of times, like in the stock market, how come individuals cannot beat the market is because a lot of the big money, people who are in the know, they control that information. Only 1% really have that information, while 99% of people don't. That's why most people lose money in the stock market if you're trying to the market. And same thing with business. Every business, if you have the ability to know something that majority of 99% of people don't know, a lot of people are willing to pay for that. Whether that you're a brain surgeon to knowing a piece of property that's going to go up in value, people are willing to pay for information that only know, and especially in a market that's growing and that's doing well. So I think that those are the three things that you should think about. There's a lot of like people trying to become an influencer and trying to teach people on TikTok, whatever, or building these master classes. As long as I think those are nice, but it's not really information arbitrage. It's simply just getting more eyeballs. So I think really figuring out what industry you want to do well, and you got to put in the reps, spend hours like at the gym, just honing in on that vertical.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really separates the great ones from the good ones.
Yeah, so that old adage of eat, sleep, breathe, eat it, right? Like just your whole life, your whole world is what you do from sunset to sundown, or sun up to sundown. Okay, rapid fire questions. It's this time of the segment that I get really excited about. I'm going to ask you both to answer. We're going to start with Roberto, and then Ken, you can respond as well. Email, call, or Slack? I need to know. Communication. Go
Slack.
quickly. Tell me.
Slack.
Ken?
Slack.
All right.
Oh, do we answer at the same time or after? I do it after.
You can do it after.
Okay,
You can answer the same time. I'm curious. You can do it however you want to do it.
You go first now, Ken.
Yeah, Ken, you go first.
Oh, coffee for sure.
Tea or Red Bull? You're about that coffee life?
Coffee.
Do you have a specific coffee order that you love?
I just do mostly, if I'm at home, I do an espresso.
Yes.
Fast and easy. But
all good things.
Coffee,
yes.
Coffee, latte, skinny.
Latte, skinny.
Skinny, yeah.
Note to self, skinny. All right. Morning or night person? Roberto, you go first.
Night.
Same. Night person.
Same. I am a night owl. Okay. This is a crazy question to ask, but I'm going to say it. Paper planner, whiteboard, or digital? Or combination thereof, right? It takes a lot to help us function in life. As founders, I need to know.
All
Mostly
of the above.
Is myself, but whiteboard is good. I like a good whiteboard.
Okay.
Especially if I'm by myself, I still use paper. I gotta tell you.
Really?
Just did a couple from Ken's, 3 habits of the. I was like, okay, this is good. I'm gonna take notes. Yeah. So it's still the paper, but I agree. I mean, in the office here, when we're all together, whiteboard is phenomenal. It's you can feel it, you can see it, you can touch it. I think it gives this warmth to the discussion that now I haven't seen digital give the same sort of feedback, instantaneous feedback that we feel with the whiteboard.
Yeah, we try like Miro, and it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not the same. Yeah,
it's not the same.
I'm with
it's not
you,
the
Ken.
same. Well, I appreciate both of you being here. And before we go, I want to do a very quick closing thoughts. I think, being an entrepreneur, being a founder, a small business owner, we know that the struggle is real. It's very easy to feel alone, and it's really important to have that community, right? It's one of the reasons why we launched Roll Talk, so that we can feel that entrepreneurs and small business owners, founders can come together and feel that community. So with that being said, I like to ask this question to every founder I meet. What are some words of wisdom that you can share? Your best piece of advice, the one thing you tell a founder today. Roberto, can you go first?
I think focus, persistence, and listen to the customer. Those are the three things that I try to, and focus, when I say that, is like, learn to say no. A lot of people have opinions, will have adjacencies that you should go into. If you believe in something, keep it simple, keep it focused, persist on that, and then get the feedback from the client. ADP is a big company, but we still do that on a daily basis, right? I mean, we talk to clients, we understand what they're feeling, what their urges and needs are, and we address them. So I think for me, focus, and listening to the client and persistence are the big things. Amazing
words of advice. Ken, what about you?
Excellent. It's a quote from John Madden, the football coach. So it's, if you're not hitting your goals, don't change your goals, change your action. And a lot of times in this environment, we're not, companies may not be hitting their revenue goals or profitability goals. Look for ways to change action so that you are meeting your goals, and so really kind of doing that assessment. For us, we set up these quarterly OKRs along the whole company, and that's really, we pay pretty close attention to it. And in our every board meeting, we review them, but we get scrutinized if you ever change or touch those OKRs. So that's something to think about.
I love it. That resonates. Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. Well, I have to tell you guys, this was our inaugural episode. Our inaugural episode of Roll Talk. I can't thank you enough, Ken and Roberto, for joining us. We sincerely appreciate you. Roll by ADP loves the Tillful partnership. We're so excited that you were here today. And I just want to say to all of those that are listening live, follow us on social. Let us know if you have any thoughts or, comments, or let us know if you think we should be interviewing someone or topics we should be covering. We appreciate you. We appreciate everything that you're doing to help small businesses everywhere work and get ahead. And that's it for us today. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mac. See you.
Great one.
Bye, Ken.
Bye-bye.